Hello, it is the end of day one class of our Advanced Certified Scrum Master. I'm here with Angela Johnson, who made it all the way here to Orange County from Minneapolis, Twin Cities. And we went to have a conversation about the Advanced Certified Scrum Master, about some of the content. I think that there's lots of folks who maybe don't know what it's about, or they're expecting things in the CSM classes you talked about today that are not covered necessarily in that 101 level course that are covered here. I thought maybe we could dig into that. Let's start there. What do you think people come to the CSM for that you're saying is 101, that really maybe they should look at the advanced CSM instead?
Yeah, for the CSM, it's really about learning the basics of the framework. It's really about the vocabulary, it's really about the roles, the events. So we don't really get time to dive into how am I supposed to act as a Scrum Master. Even in a CSM, when you do a simulation, you guys do a simulation in yours? When I eavesdrop on simulations in my CSM, it's not that they're unintelligent people or anything like that. You can tell that they physically don't understand, oh, what am I supposed to say here? Well, what do I do when somebody says that? I don't get what I'm supposed to do. And so the advanced CSM really gives us an opportunity to role play and to dive deeper into scenarios that we just don't have time to cover in a CSM.
That was one thing I really liked, watching a lot of that today. So you're diving into these scenarios and lots of conversation. And if I was hearing right, these are actually based on some real life examples you've been a part of, right?
They are ripped from my headlines.
Yeah.
Our team likes to call them the Scrum Master files. And so where we have names, they're withheld to protect both the innocent and the guilty, but these are real scenarios. And I loved the reactions today because some people were like, you've got to be talking about my company. It's like, no, I traveled all the way here from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't think I'm talking about a company in Orange County. So I think they're universal.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, even though it's a company that these folks maybe had never have heard of, they can literally picture themselves in that scenario and then work through with their teammates in this setting what they might do if they were that Scrum Master. So it gives them an opportunity to fill their toolkit where we just aren't able to do that in the CSM.
Another thing I saw a lot of people got input or value out of was you were referencing copy-paste and what you see happening in that. Can you tell me some more about what that is, what you've seen in a 101 level class like the CSM that really might get help to the advanced CSM on that copy-paste? Tell me some more about that.
What do you mean by copy-paste?
Well, they're copying parts of Scrum, just parts of it.
Oh, copying without knowledge.
Copying without knowledge, right? And they're just popping it in there.
Yeah, copying without knowledge. God bless Dr. Deming. That's his famous phrase. And so one of the things that I see a lot of people falling into that habit where they've heard about Scrum, they've heard the Scrummy language, they've heard other vocabulary, maybe from extreme programming, maybe from Kanban, but they haven't gotten knowledgeable about where the practice comes from or what it was intended to be used as. You know, user stories were the rage today that, what? User stories don't come from Scrum? No, they don't, actually. If you read the Scrum guide, they're not required. And so the discussion that we had with one of the groups really was around, is the use of that user story technique helping in your Scrum implementation or is it hurting? And the outcome of their discussion was, it's hurting. We're really skipping the conversation with the customers. We're skipping the conversation with the users. And really, we have people who used to be called business analysts sitting around writing requirements documents, copying without knowledge.
Yeah. Someone actually came during the breaks and said, literally, we had success at our company with this, and now they're telling me, do just what you did with this one team, and he's trying to help them understand context matters in this situation. What you had referenced about that copying without knowledge was like his aha of saying, this is what I need to let them know. We don't just sit there and make it form fit. You also drove a lot around the conversation for digging in more as a facilitator. What does that look like as listening? And as they're walking through scenarios, mapping it back to their experience, lots of conversation going around that. Now we're going deeper in the advanced CSM on things like facilitation. That's not necessarily the time to go into deep on the CSM, is that right?
Right, and this gets back to the value of some of the role playing that we're able to do in the advanced CSM, because it's a relatively safe space, I believe. We do have some people who are colleagues here, and I give them the opportunity to opt out or opt in. But it really gives somebody the chance to practice in a non-work related setting, because facilitation is a skill. It's all about making it comfortable for everybody to participate, making it safe for people to participate. And if somebody doesn't know how to do that, this is a great way to learn that skill.
Another thing I thought was really nice personally, and there's parts I realized I put into the CSM, that we are always tight on time, that now there's a space to dig into deeper or more broadly in the advanced CSM. And that in particular for me, today watching was the Scrum versus Kanban versus XP, and you walk through the pieces and they had to figure out what parts of that. Now tell me why you think that that's really important or valuable, that we make sure we cover that in something like the advanced CSM.
I'm a big proponent of no more copying without knowledge. And I'm a big fan of, if something's useful, let's use it, but if it's not useful, let's not. And so the aha moments some of these folks experience when they learn where practice comes from. Oh, that comes from extreme programming? Well, our product is marketing. It doesn't have anything to do with programming. This is really silly why we're using this. Oh, well then stop doing that. So I think it's very valuable that part of the learning objectives the Scrum Alliance asked us as educators to fulfill is to get outside of your Scrum box and learn about some of the other frameworks under the Agile umbrella, or as I like to call it, the Agile family tree. There's very different parents for some of these frameworks, but they're all first cousins. Right? They're all in the extended family.
Now, the other part where we cover it on day 2, other areas we feel like the CSM is great. It's a great starting point, but you still feel like, no, we got to cover these other areas, including the items in day 2. Tell me more about what's to come for the students coming in on the second day.
Day 2 is my favorite for my class because we dive into Scrum Master as coach. And much like facilitation is a skill, coaching is a skill. And if people didn't ever learn that, or maybe some of these folks aren't Little League or Soccer League or coaches for their kids' teams, I find that people who are go, oh, I get it. I understand that it's not my job to take the ball away from somebody. It's my job to give feedback, make observations, make suggestions. So tomorrow, the coaching part of the class is literally one of my favorite parts. I enjoy drawing on other disciplines outside of Scrum that help people do their job. And I will be using information from 2 of my favorite psychologists, because anybody that knows me knows I believe that Scrum Mastery is just armchair psychology. So not that we're trying to fix anybody or that we're literally putting anybody on the couch, but it's just there are some tools, there are some tips, there are some techniques that Scrum Masters can use to work through the people stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that the most common request I am hearing from people out there doing it is the coaching and the facilitation. We touch on coaching some in the CSM, but we don't go into facilitation much. I think those 2 are critical for success, especially if we're going into contextual situations. And I think what I've seen in some of the classes is people come, switching the training into consulting, asking very contextual questions. And I know you got some questions today that you said, right, that depends, it's entirely subjective. I think those sound like some of the tools you give them to then go out and help them figure some of that out. I think, looking at the roots of that as well. So you take them back through the OODA loops, you take them back to the roots of what Agile's about. And I heard some challenging input, which I thought was really interesting. It made me stop and think. You'd said at one point you'd gone through and talked to some Scrum Masters, or someone had, and named the 4 Agile Manifesto value pairs. And the results of that were?
Very few in the room could. We were at one of our events that we like to do every fall called Scrum Day Minnesota, where we give back to the community. And for $100, cash prize, the facilitator said, who can name the 4 values in the manifesto? Not by heart, not verbatim, but in spirit. And it took about 10 minutes for somebody to work their way through it and then muster that up. And it's like, if we're really living these values, if we're really as masters of Scrum, and this is our craft, this is our profession, we should understand those. We shouldn't struggle to paraphrase what those are. Yeah,
no, I totally agree with that. And I think part of it is, to go into a little bit of the administrative aspect of some of this, is you walk through the steps, because the steps are to become CSP SM, or Certified Scrum Professional Scrum Master. You have to have your CSM, you have to have a year of experience, then you can take the advanced CSM plus another year of experience and apply for the CSPSM. But it's got to be the CSM and not something else.
Right.
I think that's part of my concern is people that may have attended your class who had gone somewhere else, and what was their experience like at some other training.
We just had that happen. Somebody was pretty sure they had the CSM, but unfortunately they had, fallen prey to one of the fake certifications that's out there. And it's very much let the buyer beware. So the Scrum Alliance holds the CSM, the Certified Scrum Master. And if you have the Certified Scrum Master and 12 months or more of active Scrum Master experience, you can qualify for the advanced CSM. Now, these students in a previous class of mine found out the hard way, because when I went to do their upload, it said, sorry, not a CSM. And we checked with the Scrum Alliance, and they said, sorry, not a CSM. And then the student followed up with me and showed me a flyer or a marketing slick from who they got the training from. And I had to say, sorry, that's a competing certification to the Scrum Alliance. You're welcome to have the education. You're welcome to participate in the class. We're happy to have you. You just don't qualify for the credential until you get your CSM. And something you said there is important, because it doesn't really matter the order that you do it in. It's more of, hey, here's the totality of what you need. You need a CSM in good standing. You need 12 months or more of Scrum Master experience to achieve the advanced CSM like we held here today. So anybody making it through my program then qualifies for advanced CSM. If they have another 12 months of experience, which I think a lot of the people in the room today had it, then they go through the CSPSM and can qualify for it.
Yeah. So I did have someone actually come last week and say, I was kind of frustrated that that's an official requirement, and then she went ahead and went through my class. Now she said, look, I already been trained by someone. My company had someone come out. I won't name the company, but that's one of the ones that have come up in the last couple of years. Afterwards, she just said it's so much different to have gone through, and I think what you get with the Scrum Alliance and the rigor that you have to go through to become a trainer means you really do know your stuff and you really can deliver it very well. Right. So for folks who might feel like, hey, that's really frustrating, my experience was from this person last week is it's night and day on the experience you might get from someone who just fills out paperwork and now they're a trainer versus the Scrum Alliance and what we go through. So I thought that was important. But I'm also thinking in terms of what I'm hearing from people, and you just touched on this, these are some experienced people, and the folks that are coming to our class today were the Scrum Masters at large organizations. They're going through an adoption. This isn't checkbox Agile. They're really trying to go through a transformation, and they're getting real value out of this class. And I imagine you might have seen the same thing. Yeah. So part of my observation, I'd like your input, is I'm seeing this as another milepost or a way to kind of dig in further out and revisit some things they think they might already know, and also extend even deeper, as you're mentioning with coaching and facilitation, but also more broadly think about these other tools out there for them. But I'm talking about people that are really trying to do transformation, really trying to advance their craft. This advanced CSM is something that's helping them in a very practical way. What have you seen with that? Because you're also helping come with transformation, not just training. Right. What have you seen with that in your area? Yeah,
and there's continuous improvement, even for people who are the coaches, who are the Scrum Masters. So as people like you and I who have a responsibility to train the advanced CSM and eventually the CSPSM, our job is to continue to raise their game and to push the boundaries. No coach would sit back and go, no, team, you won one Super Bowl, you're fine, give somebody else a chance. Our job is to really continue to help these people rethink things. Because when you're new to Scrum Mastery, I know this was true for me, when I was a new Scrum Master, or a naive Scrum Master, as our friend Craig Larman likes to call people, is that you're just drinking from the fire hose. You're just getting your head around the Scrummy language, you're getting your head around the framework, you're trying a few things. It's really trial by fire. And so now you're getting a chance to go, hey, I've gotten some experience under my belt, and now I've got a chance to dive deeper on some of these things, whereas before it was maybe more cursory level or maybe surface level because we were just learning it. And something that you said in there that I think gets missed by employers is that if employers really understood what the Scrum Alliance has put together here, it's almost half the battle for the talent acquisition folks or the people in an HR function who have to hire. Because if somebody comes through and has advanced CSM on their resume, that talent acquisition person can feel comfortable knowing, hey, a third-party organization has already vetted some of the experience here. Hey, this person's already got an advanced or a higher level credential than just the entry level that we're looking for.
And I think I'd like to circle back on that because I do think that's one thing I stress in our Certified Scrum Master classes at the beginning. this is a 101 level class, and it is originally intended for a single co-located, dedicated cross-functional.
The CSM.
The
Yeah.
CSM. And how many of you have that? And very few hands come up, right? Especially now in the late adopter stage of people that are doing this. So I look at it, if I'm a manager and I'm kind of looking at my people's growth, we're trying to do this Scrum thing, we're trying to go Agile, right? And I may or may not even know what that means, but this is a set of tools to help them continue to advance their craft. Sounds like it might play a critical role, and keep pressing on, especially if you're in a large organization. It's not easy to change all these challenges. This class gives them a lot of tools to come back to and really try to advance that and apply that, and towards the results that the organization wants, right?
Right.
Which is Scrum.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think
That's a wrap.
I think that's everything on my mind.
That's a wrap.
Oh, can you edit? You can actually make that change. You're able to. Sorry for the live, folks. So, if you would like to find out more about Collaborative Leadership Team and Angela's folks there in the Twin Cities, or Rocket 9 Solutions, and what we've done in the Southern California area, in particular around Advanced Certified Scrum Master, and what that looks like, what that could do for your companies, feel free to take a look at CoLeadTeam.com
CoLeadTeam.com.
or Rocket9Solutions.com. We'd be glad to help you out.